Monte Irvin could have easily been the first to break the color barrier in Major League Baseball.
We gon' be all right.
Monte Irvin was a five-tool superstar for the Newark Eagles with movie star good looks. The real reason that Monte Irvin wasn't first to break the color barrier was because of Newark Eagles owner Effa Manley, who essentially blocked a contract move that Branch Rickey had made with Monte Irvin shortly after he got back from the war. Now, to say that Mrs. Manley couldn't stand Branch Rickey might be an understatement. Branch Rickey was essentially going to come into the Negro Leagues and raid it of its star talent without any compensation to those Negro League owners. And Effa Manley wasn't having it, so she threatened to litigate. That's when he turns his sight to Kansas City, to one Jackie Roosevelt Robinson. Monte Irvin would eventually get to the Major Leagues, but he was 30 years old by the time that Effa Manley ultimately sells him, and to rub it in Rickey's face, she says she went out and bought herself a mink coat, having moved Monte Irvin over to Rickey's arch rival, the New York Giants.
What you want? You a house, you a car, 40 acres and a mule, a piano, a guitar, anything.
Okay, Mr. Misfit, but I ain't Mr. Fit, and my this some rich.
Here's the dangerous. Cooper. Laser could be trouble, and they strike first as they take a 1-0 lead.
There was nothing that Monte Irvin could not do on the baseball field. He was the consummate five-tool player. Hit for power, hit for average, could field, could run, could throw. He had everything you needed to be a superstar. Outside of his play internationally in places like Mexico and Puerto Rico, he spent his entire career in the Negro Leagues with the Newark Eagles, where he was teammates with future Hall of Famers Leon Day and Larry Doby. And of course, the three dynamic Negro League stars would win the 1946 Negro League World Series, beating my Kansas City Monarchs and Buck O'Neil. And I don't think old Buck ever forgave Monte for doing that.
Monte Irvin steps in with a chance to break it open early for Newark in this. This one's blistered. No doubt about it. Out of here. Grand slam.
Monte Irvin was a superstar, not only in the Negro Leagues, but also in Puerto Rico. And it was there in Puerto Rico where a young Roberto Clemente idolized Monte Irvin. Roberto Clemente Jr. told me that Monte Irvin gave his dad his first real baseball glove, and that as a kid in Puerto Rico, Roberto Clemente would carry Monte Irvin's uniform to the ballpark. You see, if you carried the player's uniform, they would let you in the game for free. When Roberto Clemente dies tragically in the plane accident taking supplies to Nicaragua after the horrific earthquake, the National Baseball Hall of Fame waived the 5-year rule for induction consideration. And who does Roberto Clemente go in the Hall of Fame with? You guessed it, Monte Irvin.
For fielding, for throwing, for hitting with power, for hitting for high average, to one of the greatest that ever did it, Roberto Clemente. I met Roberto many years back in Puerto Rico, and we became real close friends.
And what a magnificent performance from Pittsburgh right fielder, the great Roberto Clemente.
And what that tells me is this. Roberto Clemente was a hero to so many. But it also tells me that every hero has a hero. And for young Roberto Clemente, his hero was the great Monte Irvin.
Line drive. And he snags it. A sensational diving play by Monte Irvin for the out.
Monte Irvin was 30 years old by the time he gets to the major leagues. So he was a shell of himself. Now remember, this is comparing Monte Irvin to Monte Irvin. He was still better than most guys playing in the major leagues, even at 30.
Irvin breaks for the plate, the second steal in World Series history. The Giants lead 2-0.
But as I've oftentimes said, I wish Major League Baseball had gotten Monte Irvin when he was 19, 20 years old, when there was absolutely nothing that Monte Irvin could not do. In 1951, Monte Irvin would become the first African-American to lead the National League in RBIs. In 1952, he followed up with his only All-Star Game appearance. It just makes you wonder, what if? What if the doors had opened a little sooner, where we truly could have seen the greatness of Monte Irvin?
If I had to do it all over again?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I would have loved to have come up sooner. I never saw anybody could beat me playing baseball when I was, say, 18, 19 years old.
Hoping to give these Giants fans something to cheer about. That one is absolutely belted. And that should be extra bases.
So young, he had to play under a fake name or he'd lose his eligibility to play high school and college sports. So he took the name of his friend, Jimmy Nelson, and that's how he made his pro debut.
He's hit. Runner from second crosses the plate. And it's an RBI single. It's 6-1. On the ground. Base hit. One run is in. Doesn't stop. Heads for home. In comes the run from second. And they're up by 3.
When I say the name Monte Irvin, it automatically elicits a smile from me, and it warms my heart because I got to know him extraordinarily well before he passed away. He was one of my favorite people in baseball. He was also one of the founding members of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum there in Kansas City, Missouri, where he would oftentimes be seen there with his good friend Buck O'Neill. And the two of them knew how important it was to build a facility that would pay tribute to this wonderful piece of baseball and Americana, but also to make sure that the legacy of the likes of Monte Irvin and the nearly 3,000 plus who called the Negro Leagues home would play on. Monte Irvin, who would star for the Newark Eagles, would make his way into Major League Baseball playing for the New York Giants, would ultimately make his way into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1973. It was a fitting ending for the man who could have been the first.
Color can't hit a ball. It takes ability. And I'm so happy that they broke that barrier down.
This one belted deep left field. On its way, gone.